Hola, soy Ana Cruz y antes de comenzar con este episodio de Rollos de Mujeres, quiero hablarte de Omar Aguilar. Con 18 años de experiencia, Omar te ofrece planificación financiera personalizada, inversiones y seguros de vida. La educación financiera, tomar decisiones sabias y dar pequeños pasos cada día pueden marcar la diferencia entre vivir de cheque en cheque y construir seguridad para ti y tu familia. Contáctalo al 817-201-6840. Es momento de tomar control de tu vida.
When I won Miss Colorado USA, I never ever imagined that I would give up a title. But when I was getting phone calls from the New York Times and News Nation and CNN, and they wanted to hear my story, that's when I realized, I said, oh wow, this organization, this title has no power. The power lies within me. The more that I have immersed myself with the queer community, kind of befriending trans women, you start to kind of understand the fight that they're also fighting for. Like, how can I use my platform? How can I work with other collaborators, creators to come together to share our collective story of women's suffrage, of women's silencing? And I think the most important story to tell is your story. My truth is that I wear my heart on my sleeve. And when you meet me and I connect with you, I truly want to help you because by helping you, I'm helping myself.
Aquí escuchamos, aprendemos y crecemos juntas. Bienvenida a Rollos de Mujeres.
Welcome to another episode of Rollos de Mujeres. I'm very excited with my guest today because it's a woman that is opening doors for so many Latinas in many industries, in the beauty industry, in the film industry, and also advocating for us, women and Latinas. So welcome to Rollos de Mujeres Podcast, Arianna Lemus. How are you, Arianna?
Hola, Anna. I am so happy to be here. Since launching my podcast, the Mírala podcast, this is my first interview, so I'm very honored and blessed to be on your podcast today.
Please, let's start by introducing yourself because I could read your whole resume, which is very impressive, but I want you to introduce to you, our audience, in your own words. Who is Arianna Lemus?
Uy. Pues soy chicana y pues no me hablo mucho español, pero la única persona que me hablo español es con mis abuelos y mi familia es de Michoacán, México. Mi mamá nació en Tijuana y yo aquí en Estados Unidos. So growing up with immigrant grandparents and immigrant mother, it was very humbling. And my parents divorced when I was 7. So when I went to school, I only spoke English, and my mother just did not practice with us. But now that I have, went on to compete in pageantry, I became, local titles, Miss Hollywood, Miss Century City. I competed at Miss California, Miss Nevada, and then I ended up competing in Miss Colorado in 2023. And I won my title, Miss Colorado USA. I competed at Miss USA. And that upbringing and that support that I had from my family meant everything to me, especially because I am la niña fresa. I'm the, oldest. I'm the oldest granddaughter. I'm the first niece. So being number one, being the first, I take a lot of pride in that. And I think that says a lot about my story. I think being a leader, being an advocate now, creating my company, Mírala, it means so much to me. So being on your podcast, being able to share my story, and, for all my Chicanas listening, any opportunity that you can speak Spanish, I definitely empower them to do it, even if you struggle.
Yeah. You know what? Like, I was born and raised in Mexico, and I came to the US at the age of 22, 23. And for many years, I feel shy about speaking in Spanish in front of other people because I thought that the only way I was going to be able to grow was to adapt, learning the language and speaking in English. But now I see the need of having this space in Spanish. And for many years, I even wanted to switch what Rollos de Mujeres is, but to English. And a lot of friends, especially a lot of mentors that are in higher positions right now, they keep telling me, don't ever do that because we need more spaces where our community can understand fully what we say. But of course, I have very important guests that I want them like you. I want you to express the best that you can, and I know English is the language that you speak the most. So I feel so happy to have these spaces and do this type of cross promotion because at the end of the day, we are advocating for the same causes, right? Which is supporting our Latino community and supporting women. And in your case, specifically supporting art as well. But
Yeah.
let's start by knowing at what moment in your life did you find out that you wanted to be part of a beauty pageant?
Yes. So I graduated high school in 2014.
Mhm.
And after graduating high school, I really wanted to become an actress. Growing up, I saw Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, and those were really like my only two representation, right? Like the Latinas on Disney. I mean, I love my Miley Cyrus and I loved, all the other girls that are so successful, Zendaya and Ariana Grande and like all of them.
Mhm.
But Selena was just my representation. So after graduating high school, I wanted to pursue acting. And I knew with my parents growing up being divorced, not really being on the same page on a lot of things, I just had to wait. I had to put my dreams on hold. And I did. I went and I studied at Baron Brown in Santa Monica. It's a Meisner technique. And I learned a lot from that experience. I ended up booking a BuzzFeed series, and that was great. I booked a 2019 Ross commercial. That was a lot of fun. And then COVID happened, and then I moved to Vegas, so like my life and getting into the industry, it was a lot of shifts and turns, but nonetheless, like I made it work. And something that I give a lot of like kudos to myself is that I'm somebody that I like to challenge myself. I like to put myself in situations that like I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this. And maybe that's the ADHD in me of just like having to figure out things in the chaos. But yeah, pageantry for me was just something that I saw an opportunity as an actress that if I ever play a role as a pageant girl, that I would know like what that means. And when I joined my first pageant in the end of 2015, going into 2016, I had no experience. I have never watched, Miss Universe or Miss America or Miss USA. The only pageant knowledge I had was Miss Congeniality with Sandra Bullock, which is a comedy about pageantry.
And a really good movie.
So I, gr- and a really good movie with a really great actress. And I used my prom dress for my senior year. I used a bikini for my summer drawer, like no preparation. And I remember in the interview, they asked me, they were like, who's your favorite Miss Universe?
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't have a favorite Miss Universe. I was like, I guess the reigning Miss Santa Barbara at rehearsals, who's been helping me, she's my Miss Universe. And I feel like me being honest, me being real was so refreshing to the judges. And that's still a common theme, whether you compete at a local level, a state level, or national level, judges want to choose girls to win the title that are authentic
Mhm.
and that really share their story regardless if they have pageant experience or not. So yeah, that was basically my introduction into pageantry because I thought that it would help me with my acting and my modeling, and it kind of did, and I think it worked out in the end.
Now, we have to be honest, and I don't see many Latinas in any of these beauty pageants representing this country. How do you
Mm.
step up and say they have to see our faces, they have to see our skin color, they need to know our stories? Where did you get that
Mm.
courage from? Because it's not easy. You didn't have any
Mhm.
role models that you could follow that look like you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I competed for Miss USA, Miss Utah ended up winning, and her mother is Venezuelan. She's half Venezuelan, and she took a lot of pride in, representing her country at the USA pageant. And I share her story because it's also my story. We competed together. We weren't like best friends. We didn't know each other. But her story was just so inspiring to me because something that I want to share with your audience is that when I won Miss Colorado USA, I never ever imagined that I would give up a title, you know? But when Noelia, Miss USA 2023, ended up giving up her title, she is a Latina, you know, and that has never happened in the history of Miss USA. There has never been a Miss USA to give up their dream job. And I knew how hard that was for her. And especially because she was representing her country and she had so many fans that were looking up to her, it was so like disheartening and so heartbreaking to see somebody like her work so hard to win a title like that and then to give it up. So for me, when it comes to representation, I think both her and I recognize that yes, we're Latinas and yes, we won these titles, but at the end of the day, we also have to be leaders to our community of girls that are looking up to us. And that if an organization is marketing themselves as woman empowerment and they're saying that they support women, but behind the scenes, they have contracts that are not allowing you to use your voice. You have to be a strong Latina and you have to advocate for yourself and go against the grain and say, I'm not gonna oblige by, you know, these predatory contracts. And that's what I guess was my call to action. And that's when I also resigned in solidarity because I think being a strong Latina and using your voice is also using your voice for injustices.
According to your experience, and thank you for doing that. I know it was all over the news and it was a big scandal, if we can say that, because that never happened before.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of controversy too, people in one side, people in the other side. But according to your experience, to all those young women that are interested in enrolling in this type of beauty pageants, according to your experience, what
Yes.
would you tell them? What do they need to know that you didn't know when you started your career?
So I would say right now, currently, the Miss USA organization and frankly, the Miss Universe organization have a lot of things happening in terms of leadership that don't really align with me. And if you are somebody who looks up to me, I would say take my advice and compete in a different organization. And that's really hard for me to say because as somebody who has only competed for Miss USA under the Miss USA or under the Miss Universe organization, this is my organization. I grew up from 18 to 26, 27. Like Miss USA, Miss Universe, that was my world, right? So it's really hard for me to say to girls that like I don't think you should compete in this organization because the lack of leadership and the things that are just going on in the organization are not okay. I mean, even just recently with the Miss Universe, you know, and Denmark winning and the owner being a trans woman and saying that being blonde, blue-eyed is the evolution of pageantry, which is like we're totally going against everything of what this organization says, right? So I think for a lot of girls that are interested in pageantry and want to find their voice, want to find their platform, want to find their community of other like-minded women, I would say seek out other organizations that are maybe not as popular as Miss USA or Miss Universe at this time.
What do you think about all these changes that happened lately to the organization? And I can give you my own personal opinion, but they started changing a lot of the rules, like letting transsexual women participate on the competition. For so many of us, and I'm
Yes.
one of them, I don't think it's fair. Um, What do you think about this very controversial topic? And we always say it in a very respectful way,
Yes.
right? We respect all type of
Yeah.
people. We respect all type of decisions that people made, but at the same time, I feel like it's not fair.
So I'll be honest with you. Initially, I wasn't for it, right? But the more that I have immersed myself with the queer community and kind of befriending trans women, you start to kind of understand the fight that they're also fighting for, which is the same fight that we want. And I know that some women kind of see trans women as like, well, you're still a man biologically. So like it's almost like this silent war against natural born women. And what I want to kind of share with you and to your listeners is that if you kind of have that mentality that the lack of fairness that a trans woman would be competing for in a competition with natural born women, you also have to understand that trans women are a part of the marginalized group, right? And trans women for decades in history, were the leading ladies of drag, right? Or of, putting on hyper femininity and makeup, right? So that comes from those marginalized communities and these trans women expressing themselves to the best of their ability, right? Whether that's with surgery or not, at the end of the day, they're just trying to live their truth. They're just trying to live their life. And I think as somebody, when you think about a beauty pageant, you have to kind of do the unlayering that trans women and their lives and their stories are just as important as natural born women. And whether you agree with that statement or not, every life matters. All life matters. And if we have trans women that want to be accepted into the women community, we should accept them with open arms. And we should understand that their life of being a woman, becoming a woman, and their struggles are so much different than a natural born woman. So if we can have an organization that empowers all kinds of women, whether you were born one or not, I think is a powerful statement. And I think when the Miss Universe organization granted a trans woman from Thailand to become the owner, everybody had really high hopes. And they were like, wow, like what a progressive leader. And to come to find out, a year later, months later, that although she's trans and a trans woman, she's not really advocating for the woman like she says she was, right? So I
Yeah.
think there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. So, what were the things that didn't align with your values? What was happening that made you feel that that was not the place that you wanted to be at,
Yes.
and that was not the organization that you wanted to represent?
So when I stood in solidarity with Noelia and I essentially gave up my title as well as Miss Colorado USA, it was very hard for me, but I knew that if I was in her position and we had all signed the same contract, but it only went into effect for the winners, for Miss USA and Miss Teen USA. And it was a group of the state title holders that met with her lawyer and met with her PR, her publicist. And they told us because she couldn't tell us, right? Because she
Mm-hmm.
signed a contract that included perpetuity.
Mm,
And beknownst to me, perpetuity is basically silencing your voice for life. Like she could never speak about her negative experiences. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I had a 1 in 51 chance of being in her position. And if that was me, I would want somebody on the outside, somebody that I competed with, to rally for me and to see that, like, what is happening to me is not okay. So I have a lot of empathy, a lot of sympathy, and I really just put myself in her shoes. And when I did, I realized that I was like, I can't continue to represent an organization that is marketing the empowerment of women, but has contracts that is silencing their voices. That is
mm-hmm.
not okay. And when I decided to resign, it's so surreal because it's like I was so scared of the repercussions. I didn't know what any of this meant. But when I was getting phone calls from the New York Times and News Nation and CNN, and they wanted to hear my story, that's when I realized I said, oh, wow, this organization, this title has no power. The power lies within me and lies within the voice that I have Noelia and Miss USA and Miss Teen USA, they no longer have their voices. Like their moms had to
Mm-hmm.
go on Good Morning America to advocate for their daughters. So I recognize my privilege and that I don't have to be a part of an organization, be a part of this organization if it no longer aligns with me. And creating Mirala and creating my woman empowerment community through my podcast, through my media company, through my film festival, I recognize my power and I took my power back and I'm so happy that I did. And although it was scary, it changed the trajectory of my life forever.
You think it was the best decision? Like if you could go back and stay on the contest, comparing what happened in your life after stepping down, you think it was even better for you, like career wise?
I think it was. And I think that I stopped listening to mentors of mine, coaches, and I started to listen to my inner voice. And I started to really listen to the little Ariana and what was going to make little Ariana feel safe, right? And I think that trust within oneself, and especially a woman, trusting your intuition, that regardless of what people are telling you, like, oh, don't do that, it's going to look bad, or like, I wouldn't recommend that, you shouldn't do that, or you should just wait it out, it's only 1 month left. And I felt disgusted with myself if I would have stayed in an organization or passing on the crown to the next girl of this uncertainty, right? So in a lot of ways, yeah, I feel like that was my truth. And I'm glad that I advocated for myself. I'm glad that I advocated for um, the winners, the national title holders. And yeah, they're not my best friends. We don't talk every day. But regardless, I think if you're a woman advocate and somebody like me who's the face of a company that empowers women, you're going to rally for a stranger of a woman or a friend of a woman. Like you're going to rally for anybody that you know is experiencing injustice. And I think that is the trajectory of my career now. I want to use my platform. I want to use the podcast. I want to use my company to change the narrative of how we see women. And I think that like, especially with my film festival, that's going to be Saturday, March 22nd. It's an opportunity for audiences, industry professionals to see women of color filmmakers telling their stories and changing the trajectory of how we see women in media. And I think that's the most powerful story that you could share with an audience.
How did the idea start with Mira La Fest? Because that's another industry where we're going to leave the beauty pageant behind because we know it's a lot that we can be talking about it. But now let's talk about your
Yes.
career as a filmmaker. Personally, I
Yeah.
admire you so much. One of my frustrated dreams was to be a filmmaker. I studied journalism and communications back in the university, but then
Mhm.
my main goal was to study filmmaker. But it, life took me through different paths. But it's not
Mhm.
easy. It's one of the hardest, I will say, one of the hardest professions, especially for a woman and especially for a woman of color. So how do you
Yeah.
start? How do you start this, like this dream? And what can you tell
Mhm.
to other women interested on studying filmmaking?
So I started as an actress, like I mentioned earlier. So I had no film school experience. I also did a little bit of college. So a lot of my story is of an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
and even saying and kind of marketing myself as an entrepreneur is a very like weird thing, but it's true. I am. Everything I've ever learned, I've learned by life experience. Any mentor that I had, it was like I met them organically. And in a lot of ways, like I'm very grateful for my story because I think it's inspiring to those people that didn't finish college or that are pursuing a career in film and have no background because I don't. And I created this whole company around that. So, starting as an actress, I started to get roles that were just not really in alignment with who I am and where I come from or where my family comes from. It was just a very like whitewashed version of Latino storytelling. And I said, not all Latino stories have to be about, our injustices or everything that our communities have suffered. Like it could literally just be a story, but have a cast be of people of color. So I wrote a short film called Red Flags. And Red Flags was a homage to my younger self of just being a people pleaser, of just, thinking that having a boy in my life and pleasing him and giving him whatever he wanted was going to make me happy. And ultimately, Red Flags, the title was because there were so many red flags as I was growing up, and they were right in front of my face. But when you're young, you don't trust yourself. You trust people outside of you. You trust what they say. And the whole story around red flags is to recognize that if you feel something is off with somebody, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your best friend, you have to trust yourself because that's the red flag, right? It's your body kind of signaling to you that you should not be here, you should not be talking to this person. So when I shared that story, I didn't know how to get it to people, essentially. So my co-writer, Carlo, he encouraged me to start a film festival. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll start a film festival. That sounds easy. But the encouragement that he gave me was, Ariana, if there's anything I know about you, is that if you set your mind to something, you will do it. And I knew that to be true because of my pageant experience. For 7 years, I wanted to compete at Miss USA, and I competed in California, I competed in Nevada, I competed in Colorado, and I finally made that dream come true. So when he said that to me, I said, you know what, you're right. If I created this film, it's an important story. I will put together an event. And it doesn't just have to be my film, it could be other people's film. So I started to kind of look at the film festival circuit and I was like, how can we be different from all the film festivals? So creating Mírala was so important because, Mírala, look at her. Look at all the amazing things that women are doing. But in the film festival circuit, there wasn't a lot of film festivals dedicated to women of color, right? There's a lot of women festivals, and I thought that's great. These festivals are good for that. But I want Mirala Film Festival to be the film festival for women of color, right? So for the first year, we had 7 short films, mine included. We had over 200 people. I got recognition from Spectrum News, Scalo News, and that was like, whoa, I started something. So then the second year, we had double attendance, and it was amazing. I got sponsors from Final Draft, Coverfly, Wana Brands, local, businesses in the Valley. So I was just so thankful for that support. And now my third year, I'm working with a soundstage in Simi Valley, and they're going to stream my film festival. So
Wow.
it's so surreal when I think back to like, wow, I just created a small little 7-minute short film, and then I wanted people to see it. And then I not only wanted people to see my film, I wanted other people to see other women of color films. And it just kind of snowballed into this community that I have created every year annually for people to support women of color filmmakers.
That's amazing.
¿Sabías que el 60% de las familias en Estados Unidos no tienen ahorros suficientes para cubrir una emergencia de $1,000? Omar Aguilar, con más de 18 años de experiencia como asesor financiero, sabe lo que es trabajar duro por tus sueños. Él está comprometido con ayudarte a alcanzar tus metas sin importar de dónde vengas. Con solo $25 al mes, puedes comenzar a construir un futuro más seguro para ti y para tu familia. Porque no se trata solo de números. Se trata de tu tranquilidad, de la educación de tus hijos, de ese viaje con los que amas, ya sea con planificación financiera personalizada, inversiones o seguros de vida. Omar está aquí para guiarte en cada paso. Contáctalo hoy al 817-201-6840 o visita blueladderfp.com y comienza a construir el futuro que siempre has soñado.
What story you think we need to tell right now? So many things are happening with our country where we live at, the US, with the world. What story you think that we women need to tell right now?
So, as a woman advocate, this is something that I think about a lot. Like, how can I use my platform? How can I work with other brands or, like yourself, collaborators, creators to come together to share our collective story of women's suffrage, of women's silencing? And I think the most important story to tell is your story. And I think that's why podcasting is being an extremely successful, lucrative business industry. I also feel as though when it comes to filmmaking, there are more stories that we can have with a woman cast, a woman lead protagonist, or even antagonist. It's just like if if there's a script, is there a possibility that this could be a woman? And I think, regardless of whatever story that you're telling as a storyteller, whether it's your own personal story or a narrative story or even a documentary, telling that story is going to allow audiences to feel seen and feel heard. And I think that alone is the most powerful story you could ever tell, which is authenticity and honesty and truth. And I think now more than ever, we need that in our society. We need Gen Z and the generations after them to see authentic stories being told in media, on social media, or just in life. It's how we build community, it's how we build conversations around injustices, it's how we allow ourselves to be seen and feel seen. So I think that's really important.
For those women looking for opportunities in the filmmaking industry, what could you tell them? That if they are still in high school, they don't know where to start? Because sometimes when we see actors or filmmakers in any position that they play, it seems so far. It seems like it's just for certain type of people. It seems
Yeah.
like it's just happening in LA, for example. And it
Mhm.
seems like I gotta be honest with you. It seems like it's a very um, difficult environment. Is that your experience, or what would you tell to the young ladies that are looking at filmmaking as a career option?
Filmmaking as a career option is not financially secure. So if you're okay with understanding that you're going to have to figure out how to pay your bills every month, then do it. If you are not, if that's not okay with you, you need your steady paycheck, then you shouldn't. Or you should do it in an understanding that it might take you not 10 years, but maybe 20 years, right? So you have to be realistic because filmmaking is a business. And it's not a business that it's a get rich quick scheme. It's a slow growth. And I think for me, I recognize that like, okay, maybe my filmmaking, my acting career is going to take some time, but in the meanwhile, the true story is my story, right? So I should allow myself to use the pageantry experience, my confidence that I have built, these last 10 years to not only empower myself and share my story, but how can I also help other women tell their stories? And my experience with the Miss USA organization and seeing the winner, not be able to tell her story, it really inspired me to be like, I feel this call to action to help other women tell their stories who are ready to tell their stories. So for anyone that is wanting to be a filmmaker, I think outside the box. I think recognize that it's going to be a journey and you're going to have high highs, you're going to have low lows. And I know like for somebody like me, when like my last project I did last year in Colorado was a short film. We competed for a 72-hour film festival challenge. We wrote, edit, shot a film in 3 days. And like those are
Wow.
fun. Those are really fun. So if you can, as a filmmaker, find challenges and build a team to do storytelling in a way where it's kind of like hybrid or like very fast paced, but nonetheless, you have a completed project. So in my portfolio as of right now, I have 2 short films under my belt. I'm in the process of producing 2 feature films. So it's a slow growth, but at the end of the day, if you're in it for the long run and you attend my film festival, I just was at Sundance Film Festival, you immerse yourself within the film community, you'll be more inspired every day to continue to become a filmmaker because it is very discouraging. Every day you want to give up. Even as an entrepreneur, I just want to give up. I can't do it. But if you surround yourself with people or even people that are like, you're comparing your chapter 5 to their chapter 25, right? It's just like even being in the same rooms, going to these panels, going to events or podcasting or whatever, you have to immerse yourself with the content that you see yourself creating. And I think that's a representation of the reflection, right? Because we're all mirrors to each other. So for me, I really aspire to be like Selena Gomez. So the more that I can immerse myself with what she's doing, it feels in alignment to me. Like I'm also a mental health advocate. I also want to help Latinas. So I think like finding ways to get yourself motivated and surround yourself with like-minded people is so important because the more that you share your filmmaking journey with your family or your friends who are not in the industry, they're going to discourage you. They're going to be like, oh, it's too hard, like keep your job or blah, 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 blah. So it's just like take all those stories with a grain of salt and just know that like if this is truly what you want to do, you should do it. It's just going to take some time.
It is funny going back to the money topic because I feel like with all the careers that had to do with art or humanities, like that's gonna be the thing. Like you are not gonna make money or it's gonna take a long time to make money. I remember those conversations too with my family and friends when I decided to be a journalist. Everybody say the same, like you are not gonna have a job, you are not gonna make money. And guess what? That was true. But when you do what you love, you'll find the ways. And something that I learned at my age is that you had to diversify as well. Starting a career doesn't mean that you have to do that for the rest of your life, or you can use those skills, those qualities that you have because you are a filmmaker or me, I'm a storyteller, and you can use those skills to create other type of projects that are gonna generate money. And we live in a different time with the internet, with social media, with these different platforms like podcasting. We're gonna find the ways to tell stories and to make money. I think that people that work hard, it's gonna do good no matter what. Even if we go and sell tortillas, or even if we go and create our own brand, and we go back to Selena Gomez. You keep talking about Selena Gomez and how you admire her. If we think about Selena Gomez, she's not just a singer. She's not just an actor or a filmmaker. She's an entrepreneur. She has a billionaire brand. So I think there are many things that we have to learn from those stories. And for those young girls that are still trying to decide what to do with their life, don't worry. Whatever you study or whatever you go to college for may not even be what you end doing if 10 years from now. So just follow your passions and enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy the journey and keep learning. And I bet whatever you went through in the beauty pageants industry give you a lot of lessons and even the push to do what you are doing right now, right?
It's so true. It's so true. Like in a lot of ways, like it was just a sad, bittersweet ending of how like that pageantry chapter in my life closed. But in a lot of ways, through that like bittersweetness and kind of heartbreak, it allowed me to kind of blossom into who I always was meant to be. And I think sometimes when we talk about our relationships in our life, whether it be professional or personal, the more that you can just allow people to come into your life, let them give you what they're supposed to give you, let yourself give them what you're supposed to give them, and forgive yourself if that relationship doesn't end up working out. Because at the end of the day, challenges are opportunities for us to figure out what is important to me. And sometimes in business relationships, you come to realize what's important to your partner and what's important to you is actually different. And you can apply that to personal relationships too. So for me, on this entrepreneurial journey, on this filmmaking journey, on this podcasting journey, like I'm okay now with recognizing that there's people that are going to come be a part of my community. It's going to resonate with them. And then it's not. And then they're going to leave my community or they're going to come work for me as a contractor, work on a season of my podcast and then kind of leave and go do something else. So I think like being a creative person, we're very sensitive, right? We're very like in our
Yeah.
feels and like that's what makes our art so beautiful. But you also have to have that business hat on and recognize that there's just people that are going to come into your life that are going to inspire you and motivate you and help you, and then they're going to leave. And you have to be okay with them leaving. And that's definitely a period in my life that I'm recognizing. Like if I want to be the Selena Gomez and I want to be this, next Latina entrepreneur, motivator to my community, I want to be honest that like being an entrepreneur, being somebody that's like constantly sharing their story, you also have to be okay with your story not resonating with everybody?
With criticism, right? And we've
Yeah.
been in platforms in social media or any type of stage uh, has the price, unfortunately, especially because now with cell phones, like any person feel the power of saying whatever they are thinking or feeling at the moment, not knowing how they are impacting the other person. Ariana, what is still missing for you? Like, and it can be something related to work, to your personal life. What are you still missing? What do you think that it's an area in your life that you need to focus on more?
Well, right now, I would say my finances. I'm trying to become more financially literate. Growing up
Mm-hmm.
with an immigrant mother, she did the best that she could, and her and my father put me and my siblings in private school. So for her, everything was very sacrificial, till the
Mm-hmm.
last dollar. And I recognize, although there's a lot of gratitude that I have for that, it's not a substantial way to live your life. And, being
Mm-hmm.
on the other side and being on the receiving end and knowing that my mom has sacrificed so much that she has very little to give to herself showed me that, like, I want to create a timeline in my life, not just for myself, but in this lifetime, so my mom can understand no more struggle. I don't want my mom to be in her retired years and like still trying to figure out means to help me, my brother, and my sister. So, what's really
Mm-hmm.
important to me is educating myself about finances, about budgeting. And these are all things nobody taught me. My dad is a
Mm-hmm.
business owner as well, but he had nobody to teach him. And I'm taking what my mom has shown me and taking what my dad has shown me, and I think that's what we do as children. We see what our parents have done for us, and then we try to just do
Mm-hmm.
a better job. So that's what I'm trying to do in this next chapter in my life, these next 10 years of, creating a lucrative business or businesses, is just like I want to have financial stability, and I want to create stability so much so that I'm able to, put my mom on payroll, right? Like that would be
Mm-hmm.
the goal for me because she has just sacrificed so much. And although I'm a product of her sacrifices, there is this feeling that I still owe her so much because she's given me everything. I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be able to compete in all those pageants if it wasn't for her sacrifices. So I feel like now as a daughter, it's my duty to work extremely hard, to create these opportunities of abundance, not just for me, but also for my family.
I love that you are so open with this topic because many women are afraid of talking about money, especially Latinas. I
Yeah.
am Mexican myself, and this is a
Mm-hmm.
topic that we never brought to the table. And that's the main
Mm-hmm.
reason why, and I can see that in my community, we see everything that is happening right now in the USA. It's very scary. It's very challenging for our community right now. But I think it has to do with us, and I'm going to speak for myself as Mexican and my family and friends, that is the people that I have around me. We are so grateful for the opportunities we have just by being in this country. And we are so humble. And many times we confuse being humble with being shy, not speaking up, and not asking for things. And one of those things is money. Even at any company, any job, we women are always afraid of asking for a raise. We women are always afraid of asking for a better position. And yes, we have a big gap that we need to close as women, but we need to start speaking up. And I love that you brought that to the table and you are honest and open saying, I need to generate money. And we were talking behind the scenes before starting recording the podcast, how we can monetize our podcast, because it is a lot of work. I know that you have a team helping you too. We have to pay people. We have to pay equipment, editing. And I have a lot of people coming to me saying, your podcast is amazing. You are doing a great job. But no one comes to tell us, how can I help you, right? And at this moment, Arianna, I'm asking you, how can I help you? Because I know all the sacrifices you are doing. I know how hard you work. I know that you have a really good heart and you are trying to advocate for good causes. And I know we all can help each other. I may not have money to invest in your podcast, but I can say, hey, if you have something cool that you want me to share, pin me on Instagram and I can share your post. If your festival is coming soon, please let me help you promoting your festival. I think we need more of that. And we need more of saying, this is not what it looks like. Acting, being in filmmaking is not like all glam, and I'm not, I'm not a Salma Hayek. Like, I'm still struggling, right? I want to be there, but I'm still struggling. We as podcasters, it's not as it may look like. We are struggling, we are working hard, but we want to get there and we need help from our listeners, our viewers, our followers, our community, the brands. We need help, right, Arianna? And this is a space to scream that.
Yeah, I love that you say that. And thank you so much for, all those kind words that you said to me. I think what I could really use right now from your audience is social media engagement. So my personal page was hacked. I had about 8,000 followers, and I no longer have that. So I just have the little small podcast platform that I built, the film festival page, and my media company. So if I could just ask your listeners to follow my personal new page, which is Soy Arianna Lemus, which maybe in a lot of ways is probably better to start fresh and rebrand and let the old photos and the old chapters, whatever. I'm letting it go. I can't get mad. But yeah, if I could just get people to follow Mirala and all the entities under it, that would mean so much to me, just because starting from ground zero on even like on a personal page is extremely hard, let alone trying to, build a following on 3 other pages. So that would help me out a lot, actually.
And also to follow your work, to see what you are doing. We're going to be checking your festival as well. We may be in Texas, but you never know. If you are in LA during those days, go and attend the festival. And I'm going to be sharing all the links in the description of this episode. And I think this is what is really going to help us keep growing as the community of Latinas, women of color, filmmakers, or whatever we do to support each other. So I'm just going to finish this episode asking just like a bunch of quick fire questions just to end with a couple laughs, because we have been very serious.
I know. I'm a very serious, I'm a very deep person.
I am too.
So this is good.
Yes. Okay, I'm just going to ask a couple questions. What's the bravest thing you have ever done other than resigning as Miss Colorado?
So the bravest thing that I'm actually currently experiencing is being a first-time homeowner, under 30, and trying to pay my mortgage and pay all my bills and run a business. So I would say that's the bravest thing.
Nice. What's one truth about yourself that many people don't know, but they need to know?
My truth is that I wear my heart on my sleeve. And when you meet me and I connect with you, I truly want to help you, because by helping you, I'm helping myself. And I've learned in the past that by wearing my heart on my sleeve and giving people the benefit of the doubt, they take advantage of me. And you would think by now, gosh, Arianna, stop letting people do that to you. But I can't help it. That's where my heart is. That's where I show myself, my true self, is by giving people the benefit of the doubt and seeing their potential. And I wish I could just be a little bit more tougher. I wish I could be, not so giving. But that's who I am to my core. And that's, I think, who I'm always going to be.
Nice. Arianna, coffee, tea, or tequila?
I love all three. That's a hard one. Pues me encanta
It
tequila.
depends the time of the day.
Yeah, serio. Yeah, I would say coffee, café.
Okay, coffee. What's the most unexpected lesson you have learned as an entrepreneur?
Ooh, and I think I kind of touched on this, that not everybody is that you want on your team is going to be on your team. That some people want to help you with your vision, but in a very limited time, like on a project basis. That's what I'm experiencing now with my podcast, and just the financial part of it, of self-funding. So yeah, just recognizing that there's just, again, people that are going to come into my community, into my brand, into my company, and they only want to be there for a short amount of time or just get what they need and then kind of learn from Mirala, learn from me as Arianna, as a business owner, and then learn from somebody else. So yeah, it's kind of a hard thing to understand, but the more that you are okay with it and recognizing that people come and go, then I think you're a lot easier on yourself, and you don't take every relationship so serious, But I'm a very deep person, and I think that, like, oh, you're gonna be with me forever, and that's not the case.
Arianna, if you could have dinner with any woman in history, who will it be?
I think you know the answer to that.
I think we say her name like 20 times already.
I know. I'm trying to get her attention, low-key.
She's always on social media. So, Selena Gomez, if you see this episode, please reach out.
Yes. Support your fellow Latinas.
Yes. Finally, what's one thing you cannot live without?
Oh, wow. One day I will have to live without this, but I'm going to just say this. My abuela's pozole. I love her pozole so much. She is just a person. Her food, her meals are just things that I can't imagine that I could ever live without. But the reality is that I will one day. But I hope, to learn her recipes and to essentially never live without it, and create like my own kind of touch to her beautiful tostadas, her tacos, enchiladas, but pozole for sure is one of my favorite meals for my Huita.
Qué rico. Arianna, it has been a pleasure to have you in Rollos de Mujeres. I hope it's not the last time. And you found a friend here. You found a team here. In any way we can support you, we'll be super happy. For those listening or watching us on YouTube, Arianna Lemus is a creative producer and entrepreneur. She's building content, inspiring not just women, but the Latino community in general. She also does commercials and films. And we love everything that you are doing. And I'm saying this at the end because I know sometimes we are so shy to introduce ourselves with all those things that we have accomplished. But we had to remind ourselves the everything that we went through and why we are here right now. So thank you so much for joining us in Rollos de Mujeres. Again, you can say your social media, your website, but I'm going to have the links on the description too.
Gracias. Thank you so much, Anna. And thank you to your podcast community for listening to this episode. It truly means a lot. But yeah, if you could just help me get my followers back up, I would really appreciate that. My personal page is Soy Arianna Lemus. And then I have the Mirala Media, Mirala Film Festival, and the Mirala Podcast.
And thank you for joining us in this conversation. My name is Ana Cruz. Remember, you can find us in all the social media platforms as Rollos de Mujeres and Rollos de Mujeres Podcast. And of course, all the episodes blog articles and a lot of great information. You can find it at rollosdemujeres.com. See you next Tuesday. Thank you so much, Arianna.
Thank you. Gracias.